Well, hello and welcome to the latest episode of India Ideas, a show which is all about science and tech, innovation and entrepreneurship. We're talking about deep tech today as NASSCOM data shows that there are over 2,100 deep tech startups in India and it's growing at 40% CAGR since 2014. And we need to understand why that has happened and what is the future course. How far is this going to stretch out and take India as well? And to talk about it, we've got with us today Dr. Vishwakumar Kayargade, co-founder and CEO of Sankhya Labs, which is a wireless communication and semiconductor solutions company doing exciting stuff in 5G as well, apart from so many other things. Srikanth Navelkar is also with us, Director Clover Infotech, which is a leading IT services provider and has a whole gamut of services there for different kinds of companies, from small to really large ones. And Sunil Sharma, MD Sophos India and SARC, is also with us. And Sophos is a worldwide leader in next generation cyber security and has an extensive arm in India as well. Welcome to you all. First, to you, Vishwa, if you could tell us a little bit more about Sankhya Labs and tell us, about deep tech in India, because you've been around for some time and now the sector seems to be, because of the digital transformation due to COVID, really taking off. That's what the data now seems to suggest for 2020.
Yeah, Sankhya is a wireless semiconductor and communication solutions company. So we have been operating for last 14 years. And initially we started as a pure play semiconductor company, providing solutions based on software-driven radios. It's a deep tech technology for communications where we bring in a new architecture to solve a class of problems in wireless communication. And we transformed ourselves from a pure play semiconductor company to a complete solution box communication, modem, demodulation, and complete box end-to-end solution providing for wireless communication over the years. And currently, we provide our solutions on 5G technology. So we have solutions for long-range wireless communication. We have solutions for satellite communication. We build satellite IoT solutions which provide location tracking services for trains, ships, and so on. This is a class of solutions we provide both for broadcast, wireless communication, and satellite communication.
Okay. And this tracking could be applied to other modes of transport as well, even in road transport, perhaps.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Great. Wonderful. Lots of applications there to talk about further on. If you could also tell us, Srikanth, a little bit more about Clover Infotech, because I believe you're an IT services provider, but the range of services that you provide is pretty large because even in cybersecurity, I believe you have some things to offer.
Right. Gautam, thanks for having me. So Clover is a 25-year-old company now, and we have been providing application management services for mainly into the banking and financial sector. Now, on one side, we are managing their critical application, critical infrastructure, ensuring that that's 24/7 available to their customers. But while doing so, we also take responsibility of modernizing their applications because that's a fundamental thing for their digital transformation. We also help them to adopt new technology, which is very relevant to them. And at the same time, we also help them to optimize, their cost of operations, whether it is transforming to cloud or whether it is getting into a private cloud for, their infrastructure. So while managing the customer's critical infrastructure, we also help them to modernize and help them to get into the new technology. So while doing so, then we have to provide various technology. We have to adopt various platforms and technology because it all depends on the customer, what technology, what they are using. So right from security of their applications up to the enhancing the performance of their applications, ensuring that they continuously upgrade their infrastructure in terms of applications and the hardware and software. So all this comes as a part of it, as our services.
Mm-hmm. And Sunil, in terms of Sophos, obviously it's a worldwide company, has operations in multiple countries, I believe 150 plus countries. But just tell us about how has it been in India and the SAARC region that you handle in terms of adopting to deep tech in cybersecurity?
So, Gautam, in India, we have been providing, cybersecurity solutions to almost 40,000 plus kind of customers. There are globally, if you look at, we have 1 million users and 400,000, which is equivalent to 4 lakh worth of customers. So I'm so proud to provide, such kind of cybersecurity solutions to our customers, to protecting them from all kind of cyber criminals. And Sophos has been operating in 150 plus countries, and we have been innovating day in, day out, because we have to be faster than the cyber criminals. So that is what we are doing. And we have 15 city operations just in India and SAARC, covering up Class B and Class C cities also.
Okay. And these clients that you have, these are all companies, big or small, or are they individuals as well?
We are protecting organizations from small organization to the larger organizations, and at the same time we do provide consumer products for for home purpose. So it is just end to end, all segment, all kind of customers. Because if you look at any kind of cyber criminal, they are just not targeting one customer, they are targeting across, and for them there is no boundaries as such. So that is what we cater to, all segment of customers.
Great, great.
Yeah.
Now, Vishwa, if we talk about the technology that you guys use, I'm sure there are clients who have requirements, but do they themselves understand the technology, and are they able to adapt to it as readily as they need to? Because we need to go back in the past as well and examine that particular question, because it's always said that deep tech is something that people have not really understood how it is to be best leveraged.
Yeah, in our case, semiconductor, of course, is a very deep tech, because all the technologies are really advanced. So the nodes, the size of the transistor keeps changing every 18 months. It becomes kind of half the size, right? So most of our customers are really very much aware of what is the new technologies coming in. So we have specialized presentations made to them to understand the deep tech aspect of what offering we have. And 5G, of course, is the latest technology in all the wireless communication. And we do have customers who really understand. Their CTO groups do probe us in all different aspects. And most of our presentations are really deep dive into some of the key aspects we bring in. And for example, most of our differentiation comes because of the IPR, the intellectual property we have for the products we develop. And we have over 65 patents already filed in the last 14 years. So this makes a significant difference compared to other people who offer similar solutions in the market. And yeah.
Okay.
And what in India, yeah, off late there's a lot of interest because of the geopolitical situation. Also, a lot of interest in the new technology offerings coming from India.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Naturally, that would be the case in India and abroad as well, because as far as the geopolitical situation is concerned, there's not just India that is wary about the kind of intrusion that is possible through some of the technology that has been evolved by, or you might call them our rivals, but they are being perceived as rivals at many levels in many countries, and even in America and Europe. But let's leave that aside. And Srikanth, in terms of understanding what you do for your clients, do you feel that there has been, through the course of these 25 years, an evolution in terms of adoption to technology that that enterprises such as yours bring to muster for your clients?
Yeah, it is. I mean, I have been working in global infotech for the last 25 years. So I have seen our customers adopting technology at various stages. And I clearly remember in early 2000 when financial sector opened up, the drive for using technologies increased to a great extent. And over the period of time, adoption of technologies like open source, adoption of cloud computing. Now it is getting into serverless computing. As such. So most of our customers they invest very heavily in experimenting every year on those technologies which are relevant to their customers. And one of the unique part of the or particular aspect of the financial sector is that they manage B2C and B2B customers both. So for now, they are looking for giving the B2C kind of experience to their B2B customers.
Okay.
And that actually, drive them to look into the same standard technology which they are looking to use for their consumers to also their B2B customers. So and it's a data-driven sector. So data insights and ensuring that how customers are working with their applications and with their products and capturing that data is also very important. Maybe COVID phase, has changed a little bit, but except that 1 year, I have seen last 25 years, most of our customers have invested very heavily. And anyway, Indian customers are very, very technology savvy. So I've seen that difference.
Okay, wonderful. And what has been your experience, Sunil, there in terms of people being first of all understanding the need for securing their business from any kind of cyber attack, and then thinking that it's worth it because a lot of people get deterred by just the fact that they need to pay some money which perhaps they had not factored in.
Very good question, Gautam. Initially, if you look at most of the customers had the tendency of buying minimal amount of solution for cybersecurity and just to run with it. And if at all they have any other challenge, then buy for the next level of cybersecurity solution. So that was the case initially, but now since for the last 2 years and even during the pandemic time, most of the business houses and organizations have started moving their infra to the cloud. They already enterprise class of customers are already there. But if you look at the mid segment or the small segment organization, they started to feel the need of moving them to cloud. And that's where they also understood that the cloud security is not the responsibility of the people or the organization who's providing cloud infra. Rather, it's the shared responsibility. So then they started to think about that, how do they need to take care of the cloud security? And they started investing into those kind of solutions. So I would say that not all the customers have similar kind of awareness, and that's exactly Sophos does. We invest heavily into the customer awareness program and the training program so that people understand the criticality and what is that which is important for them in terms of there are some basic things. We are not even asking them to invest in the beginning. They first look at their cybersecurity posture, look at the hygiene perspective, okay? That what things which they are supposed to be doing and how do they educate the end user for not touching the phishing emails and not giving away the important stuff or important data, their personal data or organization data. So even if we maintain that and then move on to the next level, then that's where Sophos comes in, and we say that we provide the next gen security solutions to prevent them from any kind of cyber crime which is happening. So it is both ways, Gautam. But right now I can see that awareness is increasing, and there is a lot of improvement in terms of understanding their current infra as to what they are, and they have identified the gaps, and they are definitely doing every bit to minimize that gap.
Mm-hmm. And also the perception has been, Vishwa, that when it comes to deep tech, there are startups now coming up as well, but when they go out and look for funding, if they require it, if they do not intend to be bootstrapped, because normally deep tech has a high gestation period as well, they don't find the investors, and especially within the country, they have to look outside as well. That's the perception. Do you think that is something that may change now?
Yeah, I think the environment for startups, especially deep tech startups, have significantly changed in India. And earlier, the perception was that in India, mostly it is services. And it was a difficult sale to say that we will do a product company out of India or a deep tech company out of India. But over the years, it is changing. Of course, you would like it to be much better than what it is today. There are more people who understand deep tech. And what we have seen in our experience is that initial phase is still with angels and so on. But once we have a prototype, once we have something shown, at least there are many strategic investors who are interested, um, especially if there is an alignment between the business groups and what we do, then the investment happens much better.
Okay.
So there is, because it's deep tech, there has to be somebody on the other side, on the investor side or the strategic investor side, who understands the significance of this, what value it brings, what is the innovation that key that is being brought out here. Then the investment happens much faster. Until that kind of expert is there on the investor side, it is always a hard sell. It's very difficult to convince.
And in terms of even raising money for R&D, I believe you spent your own money, about $30 million on R&D, and got those patents for your company. But otherwise, people find that quite difficult too.
Yes, it is difficult to convince the value that, because most investors are looking at certain time of exit, especially most of the VCs and later stage investors. And in deep tech, the time horizons can be much longer than that. So there are very few investors who understand the return on investment time horizon, especially from these kind of investments in deep tech. So it's very important that they understand the timeline, the risk involved, which is very different from other companies.
Okay. And Srikanth, what has been the experience of Clover Infotech there? Have you needed to raise money externally, or 25 years that this company's been around, it's completely bootstrapped and just grown organically through what it's earned?
Yeah, it is completely grown organically. I mean, we started this company with a small team of 5 people, and now
That's
we have
quite
grown.
Commendable. Quite commendable.
Yeah, and now we have grown to around 3,000 people, and and I'm very proud that being a domestic-focused company, we have been growing consistently, not in just terms of the number of employees, but the kind of solutions we are offering to our customers. So, to answer your question in short, it's all been organic growth, and the focus is also to ensure that we are profitable, year to year, every year, to support our growth.
And what's the case with Sophos? It's a huge company with worldwide operations, and you said 4 lakh clients. So I'm sure there is no problem where funding is concerned, or do you feel that there is something that you guys might need at some point to perhaps enhance your product line, services line, and that might require some money to come in from external investors?
So, Gautam, to answer, this organization was set up in 1985. It's been 35 plus years since then this organization was set up. And I can proudly say that money is definitely not an issue, because we are today with one of the world's largest private equity firm, which is called Thoma Bravo, which funds a lot of other businesses too. So we have been constantly innovating and engaging with our customers to provide them best breed of solutions. And there is absolutely no dearth of funds as such to innovate, research and development. We do have research and development centers in Bangalore, in Ahmedabad. We have more than 950 people working out of India. So it's quite a India-centric organization too, when you look at the overall, employee strength, which is working out of India.
Wonderful, wonderful. Yeah. That's great. Now, as far as support is concerned from the ecosystem itself, the government, we've seen some budgetary measures for startups being taken too, and there's been a thrust on startups as well, especially since 2014. We've had Startup India going as well, Vishwa. But where deep tech is concerned, do you feel that there is adequate thrust, or more emphasis needs to be given over there? Because a lot of people are saying that when it comes to developing products, particularly technology, which will have some future applications but nothing commercial right now, it does require some kind of backup, which is difficult to get at this stage in our country.
Yeah, there is there are different schemes that government has brought out, including reimbursement for patents, and then there is new PLI scheme that has come in recently. And so these are different schemes which are done with a very good objective, but when it comes to actual practice on the ground, there is always a lot of small print. So we need to find out further details and see how actually in ground we can get benefits. There are some schemes which are utilized, for example, for patent reimbursements on, we have got benefits both at central level as well as at state level. Whereas many other schemes are more oriented towards manufacturing of products. And many times as small companies, we don't do our own manufacturing, we outsource manufacturing. So some of those schemes, we are not able to really get full benefits. And so there is certain structuring that has to be done at every stage to make sure we get full benefits. And
the
there
other
are
thing
certain
that
funds for electronic development and so on. There have been funds, but they work in a very roundabout way, because although there is national interest to promote electronics, the funding is not happening directly from government. It is channeled through other agencies. Those investments are happening along with other VCs. And so the interest is not primarily to promote electronics, but it is combined with the other VCs interests, which directly doesn't benefit. So although there are some 10,000 crores fund, the fund of funds that has been put in place quite some time ago, I think very few companies have been really able to get benefits and promote electronics within India with that kind of scheme. So the fine print is extremely important, not just having this at the gross level to see. And I think many of these schemes need periodic feedback and correction from the ecosystem so that the real Indian companies get benefits out of it.
Well, Atmanirbhar Bharat is supposed to be changing quite a lot of that. And, if you talk about Atmanirbhar Bharat, a lot is being done for deep tech as well. DSCI has a new platform. It's got a national repository for deep tech capabilities. It started in 2019. But again, if we talk about, Srikanth, the kind of capabilities that potentially are there, because we have a pool of very skilled people who can solve for hardcore engineering problems and provide solutions. Do you feel that perhaps a sectoral perspective is required more than just looking at these companies that are coming up as just generic startups?
Yeah, I think so. And when there are a lot of initiatives government has taken, no doubt about that. But I think the growth of the IT sector, and I'm talking purely from the domestic IT sector, that basically depends on three things. One is the availability of the manpower. Second is the consumption of technology domestically, how government and the private sector are actually consuming the technology. And the third and most important part, which most of the people don't pay attention, is are these technology platforms are readily and cheaply available, not to the companies, but to the actual education institutions, colleges, and the individuals. I think in the second aspect, which is the use of technology or consumption of technology, I think government has done a lot of things. I think digital drive has really helped. And we are now, touching all the latest technologies. Maybe we are slightly behind in things like IoT and blockchain, but I'm sure that's just around the corner. But all of the technologies, we are, very advanced. But I think the area which private companies and the education institutes need to work on is to availability of this platform for students and the teachers to experiment and to bring those things in their curriculum basically. And I think government can really work over here as a facilitator to forge these partnerships with the Indian technology companies, the platform providers, and the education sector. And as one of my colleagues said over here, the continuous feedback from the industry to the education institution, whether it is government-owned or private sector, is extremely important because technology is moving very fast. And if we don't move, there will be a lot of gap between the skills which students are having and the skills what are required in the industry. Yes. And I think we really need to work very closely with the government and with the education sector to bridge that gap.
Okay. And what has been the perspective where, a global company like Sophos is concerned, so in this matter, where, giving a helping hand to the sector is concerned, because there are varying perspectives, especially in the US. Some would say that the government should just, let it be and not, do anything. We're fine the way we are. But then there are others who feel that, there are certain places where, as it's been said, that the government can be a facilitator, if not an investor. Some people do not like, getting money from the government as well.
So the way I have understood, Gautam, this question is that in terms of when I look at cybersecurity and this particular world, government is
which
doing,
is a sector on its own, cybersecurity.
yeah.
Now.
So lies the responsibility with any organization and the people. So we will have to identify, the organizations will have to identify the gaps and then accordingly take actions. Government can only provide you guidelines and what they should be and what they should not be doing it. Today, I can see so much of cybersecurity awareness campaign which are being run by government. I was happened to be part of one of the last week the conference, and where all government designated officers have been very, very cautious about providing those guidelines to the various departments, so that the department heads or the required designated people can come up with a policy as to how they can make the cybersecurity posture a stronger one for their organization. So that is, right, I think, is happening. I can see this government has a lot of focus on it.
Certainly, and once the data protection bill comes in, that will be very, very helpful as well. And we are progressing in that direction. I believe it could happen in the monsoon session. And we're completely out of time now. So thank you, gentlemen, for joining me today to talk about this particular deep tech sector, which has a lot of scope in India now. And it just seems that the right time has now come to really press the pedal on that. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Gautam. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Gautam.